On Tuesday, the 11th of June 2024, the President of Malawi, President Chilima, announced that the military Dornier plane, which was carrying the popular Vice President of Malawi, Saulosi Klaus Chilima, had been found after the plane had crashed into a hill, and that all passengers and the crew had perished in the accident. With the announcement, the dreams of young people in Malawi seemingly faded, and perhaps the political landscape in Malawi changed forever. This sad conclusion of the accident was announced a day after the plane went missing around mid-morning on the 10th of June 2024 in the northern part of the country. So who was Saulosi Chilima? The man known to history as Saulosi Klaus Chilima was born on February 12, 1973 in Blantyre, the commercial city of Malawi. He was the first child of Henderson Brown Chilima and Elizabeth Frances Chilima, who both worked in Blantyre. His mother was from Cheu and his father was from Lilongwe. Both his parents have since passed away. His mother was a teacher and she was tragically killed in a car accident, and his father would later pass on as well. At the time he was born, Malawi as a country was firmly under the grip of Dr. Kamuzu Banda, the then life president of Malawi. Therefore, SKC, as he was fondly called, was raised up under the strict rules of Dr. Kamuzu Hastings Banda's regime, being a one-party state where everything was controlled by the government, and by default, the only political party, the Malawi Congress Party, MCP. Economically, Malawi remains one of the poorest nations on earth. Chilima spent his early life in Blantyre, southern Malawi, and spent his long school holidays with his grandparents in Lilongwe and in Cheu. He attended HHI and Darap primary schools in Blantyre, and attended a secondary school in Dedza district for his secondary education. In his younger days, Saulosi Klaus Chilima was competitive, especially in the sport of basketball, which he continued to play till later on in his life. He was a bright and studious student who was often among the top students in his class. Little wonder then he was selected from secondary school to attend the competitive Chancellor College of Malawi, commencing his studies in 1990. His college days coincided with the wind of change that was sweeping through Africa, as Malawians rose against the one-party state dictatorship of Kamuzu Banda and the MCP. Chancellor College was a leading center for political discourse during that time, and Saulosi Chilima was front and center of political activism at the college. He was the leader of the students' wing of the Alliance for Democracy, AFOD, founded by the face of multi-party struggle at the time, the late Jakufa Chihana. Chilima graduated from the University of Malawi, Chancellor College, with a degree in social science with an economics major. This was in 1994. In July 1994, the same year in which he graduated, Malawians voted for change of government for the first time since independence in 1964, as the country moved from one-party state to a multi-party system of government. These were exciting times in Malawi, and these events would shape Chilima's political views and future in a profound way. He later on pursued a master's degree in knowledge management at the University of Malawi, graduating in 2006, and then received his PhD from the University of Bolton in the UK in 2015. Chilima is a devout Roman Catholic, and he is married to Mary, and they have 2 children. For 20 years, Chilima worked in the private sector. He started his professional career at a manufacturing company, Lever Brothers, Malawi Limited, now Unilever, and later on moved to the leasing and finance company of Malawi, and then to Southern Bottlers Limited, now Castel Malawi. He would gain the reputation of a higher achiever, goal-orientated, and someone who got things done. Airtel Malawi, the biggest mobile phone company in Malawi, would poach him from Castel Malawi to lead its sales team. Chilima continued to excel at his job and impressed the higher-ups, who then promoted him to become the first ever Malawian managing director of Airtel in 2010. Meanwhile, Malawi's political landscape was ever dynamic. There had been a few political parties exchanging the reins of power as democracy took hold of the country. Additionally, Malawi's demographics were ever changing fast. There was and there is still a population boom, with estimates of about 80% of the population being below the age of 30. The demographic makeup of Malawi would influence the main opposition party to make contact with Chilima in 2013 and poach him from the private sector to the wild jungle of politics. The Democratic Progressive Party, DPP, offered Chilima the running mate position to their presidential candidate, Professor Peter Mutharika. Chilima was seen as someone who would connect with the youth, someone who spoke and understood their language. He could not resist the offer and the chance to become potentially the vice president of Malawi. Those stuck in their comfort zones called it risky, even questioning why he would quit a cushy job as CEO of a tech company for politics. But Chilima wanted to serve his country and win the deed in 2014. Professor Peter Mutharika was sworn in as the president and Chilima as the vice president of the Republic of Malawi. The post of vice presidency in Malawi, however, was once described as a poisoned chalice by a former vice president. This is because nearly every vice president has had a falling out with their boss, and Chilima would soon find out. Saulosi Klaus Chilima was not considered a true member of the party by some powerful forces in the leadership roles of the DPP. Hence, about mid-term of DPP's governance, he was ostracized and isolated, and those original members of the party tried to force him out. But according to the Constitution of Malawi, the vice president cannot be fired, as he was voted in as part of the presidency. And Chilima chose to finish the term through to 2019. He was consequently stripped of all his delegated duties. Chilima, remaining in government by name only, would form his own party. He launched the United Transformation Movement, UTM, in 2018 to contest in the 2019 elections. UTM was extremely popular among the urban-educated youth. He contested the 2019 Malawian general elections for the presidency for the first time, with Dr. Michael Usi as his running mate. The incumbent, his former boss, President Peter Mutharika of the Democratic Progressive Party, DPP, was re-elected with 39% of the vote, defeating Lazarus Chakwera of the Malawi Congress Party, who had 35% of the vote, and Saulosi Chilima with his UTM came third at 20%, which was very decent for a new party. However, the presidential election was challenged in court by Chakwera and Chilima, and in February 2020, the Constitutional Court annulled the presidential election results, citing evidence of irregularities, and ordered fresh elections to be held within 150 days. And as the result of the Constitutional Court hearing, the President of Malawi would be elected if a candidate gets 50% of the vote plus one, replacing the former first-past-the-post system used in previous elections. In the repeat presidential election the following year in 2020, Chilima contested as Lazarus Chakwera's running mate for the Malawi Congress Party in the Tonsi Alliance, which brought together 9 opposition political parties. The main parties in the alliance being Chilima's UTM and Lazarus Chakwera's MCP. They won the election and Chilima was back as the vice president of the state. The elections were held by observers as being both free and fair. The first time a court overturned vote in Africa led to the defeat of an incumbent leader. Malawi made history. For the first 3 years of their term, President Chakwera and his vice president, Chilima, worked together well, although the alliance that ushered them into power had started showing signs of strain from the get-go. By the 3rd year of their term, the alliance was barely hanging on by a thread. In 2020, President Chakwera announced to the nation that Vice President Saulosi Chilima was suspected to be involved in a corruption scandal and was no longer going to be assigned any duties. This was deja vu for Saulosi Chilima. Consequently, Dr. Chilima was arrested in November 2022 on allegations that he accepted money in exchange for awarding government contracts. He denied the charges and got bail the same day. It was alleged that the vice president had received money to influence the awarding of contracts to two companies linked to British businessman Zenith Satar. Mr. Satar also denied any wrongdoing. The vice president made several court appearances since his arrest, although the actual trial never commenced. In May 2024, all charges were dropped, and the vice president seemingly had resumed carrying out government duties. Everyone in Malawi was keenly waiting for his next move as Malawi heads towards the general elections next year in 2025. His last official duties trip was in early June 2024, when he traveled to South Korea to represent President Chakwera. He returned on the 9th of June the same month. The following day, on the 10th of June, he boarded a military small plane with his entourage for a short 45-minute trip from Lilongwe Airport, the capital city, to Mzuzu Airport, the northern region of Malawi, where he was to attend a funeral. He left Lilongwe Airport after 9 a.m. and was expected to land around 10 o'clock at Mzuzu Airport. But the airplane was unable to land due to bad weather. The plane aborted the landing and turned back to Lilongwe for another short 45-minute trip. The plane was reported missing around 11 a.m. the same day, and searching for Chilima commenced around 3 p.m. The bodies of Vice President Chilima and his colleagues were found the next day after more than 24 hours of searching at Chikangawa Forest Reserve. The plane appeared to have struck a hill. There were no survivors. A Zambian Air Force helicopter brought remains of the deceased to the capital of Lilongwe. Hence, the man who was widely expected to lead Malawi as president at some point in Malawi's future was killed in the accident, leaving the nation in disbelief at the death of a man who has dominated Malawi's politics for the last 10 years. A man who was known for his intense work ethic, strict timekeeping, discipline, and a no-nonsense approach to work. Malawians are now left wondering what could have been.